let's get back now to the subject of mobile, the other area, and I think in our business that is exploding exponentially. What I'd like to do now is introduce you to Rachel Pasqua. Rachel leads mobile for MEC North America, which enables clients to evolve their brands to meet the demands of the multi-screen, real-time world. A frequent speaker at advertising industry events and co-author of the book on mobile marketing, An Hour a Day. Please welcome Rachel to the stage.
All right, my mic is on. Good afternoon. As the music fades. So I've been a member of the 4A's Mobile Task Force for a little over a year now, and I'm proud to be part of a group that's devoting its time to doing such important work for the benefit of our industry. So I was pleased to step in for our committee chairman, Michael Lieberman, who wasn't able to make it today, to give you an update on what we did in 2014 and where we plan to take things in 2015 before moderating the rest of the panel. So with that, last year's transformation, I wasn't here for last year's transformation, but those of you who were might remember committee member Barry Lowenthal from the Media Kitchen standing up here and talking to you about our agenda for 2014 as we relaunched the 4A's Mobile Task Force. So our agenda for 2014 really centered on the two things that we saw as the biggest barriers to investment in and growth of mobile in the industry. First and foremost was and is measurement. Measurement across all three screens these days. Something the cookie just wasn't designed to do, but also primarily measurement on mobile, and specifically measurement around location, which we kind of think of as, or I think of as sort of the gateway drug to mobile advertising. Location is the thing that seems to be often the most compelling for advertisers that are first dipping their toe in the water. So figuring out how we could eradicate the barriers to better measurement. And then second, but equally important, the barriers to better creative. We know that for all we see beautiful, rich media formats and video taking center stage, we know that the bulk of mobile still is static display. So how do we move that needle? How do we create better, richer, more contextually relevant creative formats? How do we move things in that direction? And I'm proud to say that we really made progress. I can't say that we answered those questions in the course of 1 year. I don't think anyone could. But I think we really jump-started the conversation across speaking engagements that our committee members had at Adweek last year. A lot of the conversation was picked up in the trades with the 4A's for Mobile hashtag. I think we really got people talking and thinking about these problems and how to get over these barriers. And I think we have a lot of people now behind the scenes working on making it happen. So I think there was a lot of progress in 2014 that we're so proud of. But we realized at the end of the day, when we sat down at the end of this year, or at the end of last year rather, to think about, well, what's next? What are we going to do for 2015? We realized that we were really thinking small, and no pun intended, but we were thinking about the smartphone. And it's not that the smartphone doesn't matter. I think the smartphone's just as relevant as it always was, perhaps even more so. But we have to face the fact that we're moving at light speed towards a world of constant connected mobility. We're moving towards a world where you could have a connected, branded experience through everything from your car dashboard to your bathroom mirror to the bus stop you stand next to on your way to work in the morning. And smartphones are the connective tissue of this experience. They're the glue linking these experiences together, but they're not the only screen anymore. So moving forward in 2015, we're thinking more about this idea of connected mobility, multiple screens, the connected consumer, and how can we help you take advantage of that? No small task, right? As if mobile and smartphones wasn't daunting enough. So for this year's goals, we're thinking a little bit differently. We're thinking a little more cross-platform and cross-screen, and we're thinking bigger overall. So this year is all about preparing for the fully connected world. This year, we're going to be doing things behind the scenes. We're hard at work helping you figure out how to reach the connected consumer, and a lot of that's going to be about best practices, understanding what technologies you need to be paying attention to, what vendors and partners you need to be connecting with, and I think most important of all, perhaps, what products and services you need to be developing and who you need to hire to get that done. We know that in mobile, staffing was a big enough problem. It's hard to find people with that skill set, And in this connected world, it's going to be harder still. So we have several POVs coming out that are going to help you, leap these hurdles. The first one about talent and hiring should be out this week, with one about the tech stack to follow in the coming weeks, and then several more coming out over the next couple of months. And overall, what we're going to try to do is help you create a framework for approaching this connected customer experience. So, and figuring out how to create ROI. So with that in mind, what we need from you, this is what we're going to do from you. What we need you to do for us is to tell us what you need. What are your pain points? What are the things that you're trying to do but can't? What are the things you're doing that are working? How are you staffing? How are you approaching these sorts of challenges and opportunities within your organization? And we absolutely need more contributors because we're a small group of people. And we absolutely welcome more people joining us. So if you're interested in joining and contributing to the task force, it's a great group of people doing some really interesting and important work. Please reach out to Terry or Bill if you'd like to contribute. I could really go on about what we're doing, but time is short. So I want to introduce you to our next speaker, who's going to talk to you about the overall state of mobility. So please join me in extending a very warm welcome to our next speaker, the CEO of Opera Mediaworks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about mobile advertising, about a bit of where we are, but more importantly, where we're going as an industry. We're living in a very connected world. And today, digital consumption of content is surpassing every other medium. And within that, if you drill into it, let's look at what's driving digital. Mobile devices, from a perspective of connected devices sold in 2014, 83% of all devices were mobile. So it gives you a picture of why this is quickly becoming the most important screen. In terms of time spent on screens, mobile now comprises 50% of time spent, significantly larger than the living room and the traditional TV that we've all been marketing towards. And from a day part perspective, these devices are also having a big impact on how consumers are consuming content. We find that smartphones are pretty much on all the time. And PCs tend to dominate during the work hours, right? Which is somewhat intuitive. It's what we do at work. But then you start to see the rise of tablets. As you get into the late evening, the early evening, prime time, this is peak time for tablets. And in terms of content, if you look at all of the major content categories, gaming, photos, social, news and entertainment, are now dominated on mobile devices. And a new trend is emerging, which is the consumption of mobile video on these mobile devices. If you're my demographic, let's call it roughly 40-something, it may still be somewhat unnatural for us to think about consuming long-form content on a tiny screen. But if you look at millennial behavior, they are very happy to consume movies on a smartphone or on a tablet device, where more than 50% of people out there are spending more than 20 minutes a week watching video on a mobile device. And time spent on mobile, we've all heard about the dominance of Facebook and Twitter and apps like YouTube. But when you step back and you look at it, only about 30% of consumers' time are spent in these applications, which means there's 70% of time that's spent in other applications. And that's an opportunity for marketers to really try to engage those consumers outside of these tried and true medium. So when you dive into that, you start to see that gaming and feed-based content around entertainment, news, sports are comprising more than 50%. So bigger than social media are these content categories. So one of the unique things about mobile is proximity. And we've determined that mobile is the first screen, but even more importantly is that all of the apps that consumers use, and apps now represent more than 75% of time spent compared to a browser, what a consumer does with applications really is a gateway to that first screen. How often they spend time in an application, when they do it, and where they do it from, really starts to patch together this unique app DNA that really starts to be a tool towards providing and building a concrete profile and preferences for that consumer. And now with the Internet of Things, from your thermostat to your smartwatch, to your connected TV, to your connected car, to even your connected washing machine, is connected to your mobile phone. And your mobile phone becomes the center of all of this data. And these type of things are already starting to deliver interesting experiences for content. So being able to seamlessly switch from your big screen TV to your tablet to your smartphone for that content you watch. But more importantly, it's about leveraging that same infrastructure for marketing to make that message, seamless. Not only seamless, but take that 30-second ad spot that is included in linear programming, but deliver that in a companion experience on a tablet device that turns that static experience into something that's dynamic and interactive, trackable, measurable. That's the power of mobile. When you think about the connected car, the Tesla Model S is probably the pinnacle of that. Tesla knows where you charge your car. It knows where you're going. It knows when your car needs to be repaired. Right? This is an amazing amount of intelligence and service back to the consumer. But Tesla's not by themselves. Mainstream car manufacturers like GM are aspiring to put an LTE device and a mobile hotspot in every GM car by 2017. And that's going to drive it more mainstream. And proximity, this is probably the single most important capability in mobile, is really now moving to the next frontier. It's not just about GPS data and Wi-Fi triangulation. It's about the use of Bluetooth and beacons. So a whole new level of granularity of how you can touch that consumer, measure where that consumer has been and where they're likely to be. And that's driving a whole new wave of very personalized marketing capabilities. And you tie that together with contactless payments, and now you've got a 360-degree view of consumer behavior and attribution. So we've come a long way from the time of Mad Men around data and really understand what consumers are all about. And if you think about the power of first-party data that comes from publishers, you layer that with third-party data brokers, you look at basic information that you can get from a mobile device, stitch that together with advanced information that comes from all of these connected screens and connected devices. The trick here is really intelligently gathering that data in a way that can be used, right? It's not just about letting it sit there in its separate silos, but it's about coordinating that effort. And this is a very unique opportunity for you all in the audience. As marketers, you have the opportunity in the age of mobile to own this data. It's not about setting this data up into the cloud and letting the Googles, the Facebooks, build multi-billion dollars of revenue based on that data. But it's about taking control of that data and making sure that you're leveraging it, not for just that first campaign, but the next campaign and the sequential message you want to deliver, how you want to measure how you reach that audience, and were your assumptions about that audience actually a little different than when you started the campaign. This, again, is the power of mobile. And here's an example. You think about a consumer that visits Joe's Cafe in New York, and he shows up every day. He might use the cafe's Wi-Fi. He might interact with a contactless payment system like Apple Pay. He might even use the lounge area and interact with a passive beacon there as he comes to the cafe between meetings. But the one thing that you understand is that this consumer never comes in during the weekends. And this is the opportunity to deliver really one-to-one marketing, being able to reach that consumer and give them an incentive that's very special to them. You know, maybe it's 50% off his favorite chocolate croissant if he comes in on Saturday morning. This is the next wave of mobile targeting. And we've heard a lot about feed-based media. You know, Facebook taught us all that the power of the feed allows consumers to look through, browse through a tremendous amount of content at a flip of a finger and just zero in on the things that really interest them. But with that, we're starting to see video. And video, to engage a consumer with video in a feed-based environment is really a different challenge, because it's not taking something that was intended to run on a big screen at 15 or 30 seconds. It's about trying to capture the imagination of that consumer in 3 to 4 seconds. So it's a familiar medium in the sense of its video, but it's a whole new delivery mechanism. It's a whole new consumer experience. And it really has to be around short form content. We found that it really has to be in the sub 20-second range, and more optimally in the 6, 7, 8-second range to engage that consumer. So here's an example. So not only is the video engaging, but you can tap to make it full screen. And then there's an opportunity to engage that consumer at one level deeper. So what's engaging content?
People ask me all the time, are those really all natural? Well, I can assure you, they're all natural, they're incredible, and they're waiting for you at Carl's Jr.
But take it one more step, which is really about making it interactive. So having a coupon offer in that ad unit that could get delivered to your phone very quickly, that's ultimately going to drive foot traffic into that venue. Another really important nuance in mobile is about understanding the consumer's state of mind. And with mobile, we find a lot of consumers in a state of need. So they might be launching an application to get a stock price, to get an update on their flight schedule, to look at a news feed. This is not a great time to try to engage that consumer in a deep, immersive brand experience. But much more of consumers' time is in a state of want, right? And this is the ability to capture that consumer when they're in a bit more of a lean-back experience, to deliver more of a rich media or video ad, because 87% of time spent is in that state of want as opposed to state of need. And what we find is that, you know, with video, you're starting to see amazing completion rates, you know, in the upper 80s, even 90+ percentile, when you capture that consumer in an appropriate time and place. So to summarize, you know, the power of mobile is that your mobile device is the center of a connected universe, and that you have the ability to engage with that consumer, you know, not traditionally what we've done, which is to fish where the fish are, but to try to engage them in their pocket, where you can both emotionally and physically connect with them at a much deeper level. So many of you have been out there buying audiences, right? So you buy an audience, let's say soccer moms. But with mobile, you have the power to not only find those soccer moms, but find the segment of soccer moms whose preferred eyeliner is NARS, right? That's the power of what mobile represents and where we're going. It's also about understanding their consumptive patterns, right? Where they travel to, how they spend their money, where they spend their money, who they might interact with, how much time they spend in a chat environment versus a lean back environment. And ultimately, even understanding when it's convenient for them to do their laundry adds depth and complexity to understanding that consumer. So I hope I've left you with a view into where mobile has been and where it's going, and the power of this medium, and the power for you to really control much of that experience and the depth and breadth of that experience. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mahi Silva, for a terrific presentation. You know, he touched on two themes that are very near and dear to my heart and should be to yours, I think, and that's proximity and the power of data-driven mobile customer experiences. So our next speaker is going to come out and talk to you about that from the brand perspective and show you what it looks like when you put it in motion. And if we still have time, I know we're running a little over, we'll have a brief fireside chat about how brands and agencies can work together to really make that happen. So again, please welcome me in joining our next, join me in welcoming our next speaker, Jeff Jenkins from Taco Bell. Jeff?
How's everybody doing? Good. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. It's been an exciting 2 days. I'm excited to tell you a little bit about what's going on with Taco Bell and our what's going on in mobile. So what's really interesting here is why mobile for us. Well, when we think about it, millennial consumers are our sweet spot, and really Gen Z that's going beyond that. And why is that important? 22 out of every 24 hours a day, a millennial has a mobile device in reach. And when I say a mobile device, I don't call it a smartphone. I call it a mobile device because this device is no longer a phone in the sense that Viagra is no longer a hypertension treatment. The use case has changed. Go in, look at your battery usage. What's your percentage on a phone? 1%? 2%? This is changing the way people interact with brands. It's intersecting their lives in a very interesting space. And I think as you see this in sort of the Vitruvian Man and all the connected devices you can wear on your wrist, your ankle, your hip, it's going to be an intersection of time of which brands can reach you. And how do we do that? We have to do it with a lot of care. We have to do it in a way that really reaches the consumer on their terms. So we're really lucky at Taco Bell in the sense that we sit on what I like to call the cusp of commerce. And what I mean by that is, with a lot of our competitors, you're introduced at a point where your parents bring you a kid's meal, or they take you to the restaurant. That's not what happens with Taco Bell. When I tell people I work for Taco Bell, they generally say, that's where I went after a night of drinking. That's where I went in college when I didn't have a lot of money. That's where I went after high school practice. So we sit at this really cool intersection where two things happen that drive you to become a consumer of our brand. Number one, you get your first job and you get that first paycheck. It's a big moment. You have your first disposable income, whether that's a summer job or whether that is a after-school job. It is a job in which you are creating income for yourself for the very first time. The second part of that is freedom. You're getting your license. You're getting your car. You're allowed to get out of there without your parents. And what's really cool about what's going on with millennials and the transformation that's happened over the last few months or few years is these are tech natives for the first time. I have two kids. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. I started out with a TV screen that was seated on a low-slung table, and after about my daughter turned 18 months, we had swipe marks all over the bottom because she thought she could interact with it like she interacts with my phone and she interacts with my tablet. They are digital natives and they are touch natives. They expect to be able to interact with brands on every screen. And as they come into our brand, we're really well positioned to be there, and that's why we believe mobile is the space we want to be in. Secondarily, it is the biggest revolution mobile is since the fast food drive-through 50 years ago. No one's changed how you interact with the brand, how you consume a brand at fast food. You either go through the drive-through or you go to the front counter. Now you can order from your device. You can pick it up. You can get delivery. It's changing the way people interact with our brands fundamentally, and it's raising the expectations of what we have to deliver. I can't have you have a wonderful experience on your device and then show up and treat you like everybody else. So it's going to inform the offline as well as the online. So we at Taco Bell think of it as the new way to Taco Bell. In fact, if you're not doing this, you're old school. And I think that is the way that's been driving us as a business to really think mobile first. And I know that term gets thrown around, oh, we're mobile first, we're mobile first. What does mobile first mean? Well, to us, it means that we are putting ourselves earlier in the customer decision journey. This is no longer, hey, we're a low involvement choice at Taco Bell. I'm driving down the road. I can either turn right to go to a competitor or turn left to go to Taco Bell. This is a place for us to intersect you, send you a notification at 11:30 and say, hey, no, it's about lunchtime. Here's an offer for you. So I think it's about an intersection. It's not a screen. It's not a device. It's a channel for us. But first of all, I think as an agency, and what our agencies have been so great at doing is abolishing old school thinking. You know, when we started off on our journey, everyone was focused on this. What is this? This is an application. It's a native app for our iOS and Android platforms. But it's so much more. We were really excited at the end of the year. It was a top 20 ad by Fast Company. I think that blew everyone's mind within our organization, started transforming our organization to think, wow, this is no longer an application or an app or some way to transact with our business. This is a brand piece of advertising. You know, and it is really about an immersive experience. You know, we have an acronym for what we call our mobile platform, and that was BLIMP. And it stands for Bell in My Pocket. Because it really takes a lot of time to build an asset. But I can get 2.5 million downloads in under 70 days for you to interact with our brand on your terms. It's a huge win for us. So how do we do it? This has become our internal mantra. Think like a growth hacker. I don't know if you guys have read the book Growth Hacker Marketing. It's a brilliant read if you haven't. It's about 100 pages. For us, this is no longer about big, long-term platform ideas. We've got to think every day. We wake every day, start them with our stand-ups, work differently. We've moved the whole entire organization working in sort of a sprint, agile environment, really trying to dominate the way in which we work to become an organization that attacks it on a one-to-one level. For years, our industry never had the ability to have a one-to-one relationship with consumers. It was always, hey, there's no loyalty in fast food. But there is. We just never took the time to create it. So what this means is we work differently. We ring-fence teams now, set them apart, work with our agencies in real time to create that content. It's changing the relationships we have with our agencies, with our partners, with our developers. How do we make sure that we're agile? When all of a sudden we realize within our app we have a discoverability problem, how do we attack that in 3 days and turn around an entire search feature so that we can make sure that every product that's on TV is easily found within our app? Part of that mentality is also being in the right place and right time on other channels other than our own channels. So one of the things we really strive for is really to look at new platforms. Where can we insert ourselves into the conversation where it makes sense, people want to meet us on our terms, and we're providing value, which is the underlying thing that I think we have to do more than anything else, is provide value to our consumers. We were the first brand on Waze to do an integration on Waze, which was a really great thing because that's a great moment for us. In old terms, it was radio, and now look at this. Someone's using this to find a new place that they're going. We can insert ourselves in the journey and add value to you because it makes it easier to find, and we were the first integration there. But it's not always about being first. You know, Snapchat's a good example. Snapchat was a platform where people were around for years, and we don't rush out and be first on every platform. We weren't the first on Meerkat that popped in during South by Southwest. We want to go where our consumers are. And Snapchat was a really interesting one for us because it came out, it was blowing up, it was incredibly powerful. But what was happening was brands were afraid to use it because of the nature of the hacking and all the things that were going on. And we decided, hey, we want to go where our consumers are and where we can drive a story about how we're relevant to our consumers. And our consumers were using Snapchat. So we jumped on there and really were the first people to break a product on Snapchat to really bring the brand to life. And I think it's one of our strong suits. And our engagements is through the roof on Snapchat. Vine's another one where we, I think, tried to really play in a place where it's emerging, and really short-form content is something in our world that's really important. Think about it. When you go to the drive-thru and you sit at the drive-thru, and then you go and have to wait 3 minutes, what do? You get on your phone, you're sitting, you're flipping as you're having to wait in line. If you're waiting in line at the coffee shop, you're doing the same thing. How do we provide micro-entertainment and micro-branded content in those moments where we have opportunities to insert ourselves in the conversation? And do things unexpected. We actually sort of got in the Wayback Machine when we launched breakfast last year. We just launched our breakfast campaign again this year. If you haven't seen it, it's worth checking out online today. But we went and got old burner phones and sent them to folks out there and gave them tasks. And it was being unexpected. Everyone was expecting us to do something on a new platform, and we flipped the script and went old school and we really amplified it through our channels. So this is the question I think I always ask ourselves, our team, and this is where some tremendous ideas that we've had come from our agencies as well, is what would you do if you had no budget? It's a really hard question. So every time we get to the end of the year, that's always my fear. We're gonna have a great project to launch and we're not gonna have the funds to do it at the level we want. But then we dive in and find unbelievable ways to launch products in ways that we wouldn't have dreamed of had we had more budget. And then we use that same budget to amplify. So this was us. We wanted to figure out how do we launch mobile ordering at Taco Bell on a mobile phone? We didn't have a huge budget. How do we get creative? Well, what if we took the Taco Bell social presence away, blacked everything out, forced everyone into the app to experience Taco Bell again? And I can tell you this, it was a very frightening moment when we shut everything down at midnight on a Tuesday and said, is anyone gonna notice? Is anyone gonna care? Are we talking to ourselves? But the next thing you knew, we moved from 1,239th to the top 10 in the App Store within 12 hours. It generated the conversation, and all it cost us was blacking out assets we already had. And it was very powerful. We took our TV ads and just cut them and did some editing in terms of blacking out the television. It was a very powerful moment for our brand to show that not only are we thinking device first and channel first, but really that's where we need to be. So we have a video that sort of sums all this up, and I will let them roll the video for you.
Taco Bell's beefy Fritos burrito, crunchy Fritos, seasoned beef, and warm nacho cheese sauce, all for just $1.
Don't adjust your television. The new way to Taco Bell isn't on TV. It's only in the app.
Kidding. You got me woke up. The way you roll that, sticky like okra. Just let me coach ya. Show you about my culture. It's a late night show like Conan. Bitch, the party ain't over. Go ham in here and grab your friend by the hand. Let me know, is you down? Body like playmate of the year. I might make
Taco Bell launching a new mobile app. We can never put a damper on Taco Bell.
My first job was at Taco Bell. I made a lot of enchiladas back in the day.
Like you placed your order from your Taco Bell app?
Yep. I don't think I did justice to your new app, did I, Brian?
You're doing a lot better now, Stuart.
You can just get like Taco Bell on your phone now, an application.
So you don't have to talk to anyone, and then you just go to the store and pick it up.
That's a good idea.
This the Taco Bell app, right? This the Taco Bell app. My stomach empty, man. I'm craving the crunch. I need to get the Taco Bell and get some excellent lunch. So I download the app, order a crunch wrap, a few crunchy tacos, no tomatoes on that. Come and take a ride, straight up all night. Okay. We on Sunset until the sun up. I got my goals here, so don't you run up. It could get ugly. Think I need a wingman.
Taco Bell. Taco Bell.
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell. Taco Bell.
The new way to Taco Bell is only in the app.
All right, well, thank you very much for having me here today. Really appreciate it.